Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Random Redshirt podcast. I am one of the hosts, Zach, and the other host is Chris. What's up, buddy?
Hello, everybody. Hello, my dear friend Zach. Excellent to see you, as always. Hope everyone is doing well on this December, kind of the holiday season, like around the world and in the ISS and the space station, like wherever, and in Antarctica, wherever everyone may be. Hope everyone's doing great.
Yeah. Is there any
Yeah.
update on Atlas 3I? I haven't heard anything about that in a while. You normally, the last couple times you've mentioned if anybody on Atlas 3I or whatever is listening,
Yeah.
has there
I
been any changes to
Well,
that or no?
no, I don't know. I need to look at the latest updates. I know NASA released some images, I believe, of Atlas 3I after the government shutdown ended. But I haven't gone and saw it. I've been working so much, so
Yeah,
I need to
same.
go back and and look at the Atlas 3I images, my friend.
I did see some of those images as well
Yeah?
of the NASA release. If you zoom in really carefully, you can see a small ship flying towards it, and it's got Jeff Goldblum and Will Smith on it.
Ah, there
So
you go.
there's those pictures out there. If you haven't seen those pictures surface, they are approaching Atlas 3I trying to communicate.
Yeah, well, glad they're protecting us. So,
Well, Jeff Goldblum's going to download his cold,
mhm.
his
Yeah,
virus into
yeah.
the ship.
Yeah,
So
that'll be good.
we'll be protected. We'll have a lot of falling objects into the sky, but that's okay.
That is okay.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. Anyways,
Are
yeah.
you yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah. Yeah. Are you feeling the December Christmas pressure and rush and holiday rush?
To be honest with you, not really.
That's
I
good.
think it's
Yeah.
just because my work hours have been so bizarre for the
Mm-hmm.
last 5 months. It's just kind of got me thrown off my kilter a little bit. I'll be honest with you, we're 11 days from Christmas.
Yeah.
For those who celebrate it around the world, it doesn't feel like it. When we've had our Christmas tree up in our house since like November 1st, because that's how my wife rolls. Or not, no, not the tree, but we've had the Christmas decorations up. We put the tree up like on her birthday on November 5th.
Okay.
But so it's been up for so long, I just have kind of like it's just there now. It's been there for a while, right? And I've been so busy working and my hours have been so all over the map and I just got done working some overnight shifts. So I too am tired as well, my friend.
Yeah.
I feel you there. And so I just think it's just the my brain has just been kind of spinning with all the weird hours and stuff that it doesn't feel like we're this close. I still feel like
Yeah.
Christmas is like a month or two away. It doesn't feel like we're 11 days out.
Yeah. We're so close. It's just
We
gonna
are.
come upon us in no time.
It's gonna be here real soon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, it's gonna be here real soon. And it hasn't like we got one little bit of one thing of snow and then it went away and it's been on and off warm. Like it was like 50 degrees the other day, 55 degrees, 60 degrees the other day. So yeah, it's just weird, man. It's just
Yeah.
kind of one of those weird years, I guess. I don't know. But we are back here on the Random Retro podcast, continuing our brand new Spotlight series that we debuted a couple of weeks ago at the time of this recording, where we are starting the Spotlight series looking at Starfleet's finest with a question mark. And the question mark is very important in the Spotlight series because we're going to look at some really awesome admirals and captains that have made appearances on Star Trek. We're not focusing necessarily on the leading captains of each of the Star Trek Legacy series. Although we've talked about, maybe possibly looking at some of the Star Trek movies with Admiral Kirk, just because of some of the things that are done. However, a lot of these characters are characters that come in for one episode or only come in for a couple of episodes. And looking at them through the lens of how do they operate as leaders? Or do they have good morals and integrity? What is their character like? All those types of things. And so our very first episode of this brand new Spotlight series, entitled Starfleet's Finest with a question mark, was none other than Doomsday Machine, where we looked at Commodore Decker.
That's right. Commodore Decker, also the father of Decker from Star Trek, the motion picture. And yeah, interesting family dynamic between the Deckers and Captain Kirk. But it was a great episode. Oh, it was a great episode to watch Doomsday again and looking at from that lens of kind of Commodore Decker's experience.
Yeah. Well, and it he plays obviously a huge role in the episode. I mean, and we looked at his character, we looked at the effect it had of him losing his crew, and we kind of did a compare and contrast with Moby Dick and Ahab and the White Whale and so forth. So if you haven't had an opportunity to check out the first episode of this new Spotlight series, be sure to go find that on our YouTube channel and everywhere you get your podcasts. With the second episode of this new Spotlight series, as you can tell by the title, we are looking at Star Trek the original series episode Court Martial. Excuse me. And our focus character in this, besides the main characters and going through the episode, is Commodore Stone.
That's right, Commodore Stone. And I'll bet that Commodore Stone isn't much talked about. So I'm really glad we get to talk about like Commodore Stone and got to pay attention to like how he was during this episode. I really liked Commodore Stone throughout the entirety of this episode, and I thought he was uh like a very, very like proper and like decent Commodore and a leader. So glad he was in it. That was great. It was great to see um kind of that superior officer dynamic with Captain Kirk and how they were talking and how they were relating. A very different dynamic than the one, with Decker and Kirk.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, there
yeah.
there was one line in Doomsday Machine where Commodore Decker says, you know who you're talking to, Kirk. I'm still your superior officer or something like
Yeah.
that, right? But
Yeah.
that's it. Otherwise, it's like first name basis. We know they have a history. We know they have a friendship. They know each other. But you're right. That definitely a different dynamic here in general with Commodore Stone and Captain Kirk. And you're right. I think with Commodore Stone, who may not be the most talked about guy in Star Trek. Uh, there was also an ensign that we talked about in Star Trek The Next Generation episode Genesis during our Halloween series that died on the bridge that I don't know if anybody ever mourned him.
No one
Remember
mourned the
him?
guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even remember the
Yeah.
guy's name. That's the
Poor
sad
guy.
part. I don't
And
remember his
yeah,
name off
me
the top of my
neither.
head.
He was like Claude. He was like
Yeah.
totally like messed up like
Yeah.
on the bridge. And at the end of the episode, I think Riker and Troy are like or no, Troy and the Dr. Crusher are smiling and happy and
Yeah.
yeah,
Nobody mourned him.
nobody mourned him.
He
We
was
did. We mourned him.
That's true, Chris. We did here on the Random Redshirt podcast because we mourn all of the red shirts who have passed away and given their lives for the sake of the defense of the Federation and of Starfleet and its world. So you will always find us on the lookout for and keeping an eye out and mourning those red shirts that we've
Mhm.
lost. And yes, there are yellow shirts that have been lost too because starting in TNG moving forward, security takes on a new color,
Yeah.
but that still kind of falls under the guise of the random red shirt kind of idea too. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely.
it's good. But all right, Chris. Well, let's jump into this. If this is your first time watching or listening to us, thank you so much for joining us. We are a couple of nerdy guys who like to talk about all things nerdy and geeky. Be sure to go on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, YouTube if you're on a podcast platform, or if you're on YouTube, you can find every single episode we've ever done on your favorite podcast platform. And I think we're up to this is like 100 episode 161 or something of our podcast since we first started this back in May of 2021. Can you
Wow.
believe that, dude? It's going to be next year will be what? 5 years we've been doing this podcast come
Yeah,
May.
5 years.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like it, does it? It really doesn't feel like it's been that long.
No, we've been on the air like longer than many shows. So
Yeah,
this is
that's
good.
true. That's true. Yeah, especially nowadays
We're doing
with the
good.
way shows get canceled all the time, and especially the good. It's always the good ones that get canceled. It's the garbage ones that continue on and on and on. Like how many seasons of Grey's Anatomy do we need? Now I've never seen a single episode of Grey's Anatomy, but my wife is telling me she's like, yeah, they're on season like 20 something. I'm like, how many head injuries at the ER can you have
Oh, yeah.
before it's just kind of repetitive, right? And
Yeah.
if you're a Grey's Anatomy fan, I'm not bashing Grey's Anatomy. I don't understand how shows can get that many seasons, but then you have such amazing shows like Enterprise and only got four. I mean, come on. Terrible, man.
I know
It's
our wife,
terrible.
yeah, yeah, our wives like will, I'm sure, defend Grey's Anatomy and say that it should have perpetual seasons like from now on. Uh, but yeah, my wife confuses or she mixes up, I think on purpose, like the Star Wars and Star Trek. So,
You know she does that on purpose, Chris,
yeah.
because she knows the difference. My wife, on the other hand, not as much. Although, well, when we first met, she didn't. She thought Star Trek was a sequel to Star Wars, and people ask me, they're like, "And you married her?" I'm like, "I know.
Oh, yeah.
It's opposites attract, I guess." But okay, let's jump into this. Star Trek, the original series episode entitled "Court Martial."
I'm so glad we watched this episode. Every time I go back and see an episode, I see more detail and kind of more layers and more meaning throughout it.
Yeah,
And I really found like quite a bit of meaning in this episode as I went through. I mean, it starts off, um, they're on Starbase 11. And so Captain Kirk is doing his captain's log, and they've just been through a terrible ion storm where the ship was like incredibly damaged. And through the course of this storm, the person that was in the ion pod taking the readings of through the storm, Captain Kirk had to eject the pod to save the ship. But in the course of that, then, you know, apparently the individual perished. So
yeah,
Finney, Finney
yep.
perished. And
Lieutenant
so
Commander Finney, I think was his rank, right?
yeah,
Benjamin Finney. He knew him and Kirk were friends. I think were they at the academy together? Is that where they first met? I think.
he was an instructor. I think
Yeah, that's
Finney
what it
was an
was.
instructor when
Yeah,
Kirk was a he said he was a midshipman or
yeah. So he would have
yeah.
been he would have been older than Kirk.
Yeah, and I think we see that through this episode too.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. And Captain Kirk is giving his deposition. He's in Commodore Stone's office, like reviewing the deposition, reviewing what happened, and it's taking a while. And actually Commodore remarks on that, saying, "Hey, why are you taking like so long, like reading over your deposition? And you're like reading it for the third time." And Captain Kirk says, "Well, this is like I lost a crewman. He's upset about that." So I mean, I
Yeah,
think Commodore Stone says, yeah, regulations, you got to do this. Um, and so that's part of it. There's Captain Kirk's kind of sworn personal deposition that he's signing, but as part of this process, they've got to download the computer logs and the transcript of what happened, and then put it as part of the file and give it to Commodore Stone, and so for his review.
yeah.
And um, and that's where things really go off the rails from there.
Yeah, I have a question about
Yeah.
this to start. What is this pod they speak of, and why the hell did Finney have to climb into a pod to take readings? Can't the ship do that? Like, why does he have to be in some special pod during an ion storm? Why is he in there? I mean, they don't obviously explain
Mhm.
that, but clearly it's some type of scientific thing. But
Yeah.
if the pod had to be ejected, that means it was attached to the ship.
Yeah.
So why? What made this pod so special that the only readings that could be taken were from that little place on the ship that could be ejected? You're telling me the rest of the sensors and everything else on that ship weren't capable of taking the same readings that this little pod could? I don't know.
No,
That
I
to
agree.
me,
Yeah. Great
that to me
question.
was super confusing, right?
I wonder if they have that detail in I think there's an old Enterprise technical manual, Star Trek
Hmm.
technical manual. So that's a great question. That makes me want to go back and look and see if they've got kind of that detail on the ion pod for the Constitution class ship. See if it's in there.
Yeah. I'm gonna venture to say it's not, but maybe because sometimes those tech manuals can be way more detailed, and you're like, oh, I didn't even know that was a thing. It was like mentioned
Hmm.
in one line in one episode somewhere, and all of a sudden it made it into a tech manual. So
Yeah.
I know the work put into those tech manuals is really fantastic. I mean, you think about like when we had Rick Sternbach on with us, the legend
Yeah.
himself. I mean, he wrote, he was a part of the TNG and DS9 tech manuals,
Yeah,
and
he was.
those things are incredible. So
So apparently the pod duty, ion pod duty is not the duty you want to get.
no, and according to Spock, he was the top of the roster. So he unfortunately in this case he drew the short straw, man.
Yeah.
Like it was just unfortunately his turn on the roster, and I think even Commodore Stone asks Kirk why he was assigned to that, and he's like, well, he was the top of the roster, man.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So they're waiting for they just need that computer transcript download to kind of record provide that as part of the files for the events. And so Kirk is asking Uhura, say, "Hey, where's Mr. Spock with the files?" And she says, "Well, I thought he would have been there like 10 minutes ago." And you see Spock eventually beamed down, ready to give those files over, but you can see the hesitation, like in how Spock behaves, that something's like amiss.
Yeah.
And he gives it to the Commodore.
Yeah.
And yeah,
No, go
go
ahead.
ahead. Go ahead. I think shortly after or around the same time, Finney's daughter like walks in hysterics and super mad at Captain Kirk.
Yeah. Yeah. I This episode to me, I okay, so this kind of opening scene or first couple of scenes with Commodore Stone in this kind of like inquiry with Kirk and the record tapes, and then Finney's uh, daughter. There's definitely a lot of guilty until proven innocent kind of vibes going on here, right? Like and rightfully so. The way the episode's laid out, right, is that everybody around Kirk, minus his own crew, are conspiring not against him, but they're conspiring basically to say that they've already decided in their mind he's guilty, right? Like they don't have to see anything. They already know. Oh yeah, he's guilty. Can't believe he did that. Even the members of Kirk's academy class that were on the starbase that he runs into at the in the bar, um, even they're you know the stuff they say is very poignant where they pretty much believe he's done something wrong, but yet nobody's actually seen anything. Nobody has any clue what actually happened. They weren't there. None of that. They're just going off of, well, they heard these rumors and therefore he's guilty. And this idea of guilty until proven innocent, vice the innocent until proven guilty mentality. So I find that very fascinating. That kind of angle was taken. And obviously, from an episodic perspective, that focus and that angle helps build the drama and the tension as the episode goes forward.
Hmm. Indeed, exactly. You know what? Another aspect that really drew my attention, and this goes into um, what you were saying, like people are just kind of already concluding that Captain Kirk is guilty, is the amount of weight and certainty they put on what the machine is telling them, right? What the
Yeah,
video is telling them, what the machine is telling them. So because the machine and the transcripts say this, and everyone believes the computers don't lie. Uh, we don't think the computer had a malfunction. Everyone draws to the conclusion of that has to be the absolute truth. What the computer is saying, what these images are saying is absolutely true. Therefore, you know, Captain Kirk, you are guilty. And to me, when I watched this episode again, this was the aspect of it that like really came out, this the man versus machine. And so like when we hear Captain Kirk's lawyer can speak like later. He says this beautiful like line that I'll talk later when we get into it that I wrote down and going, wow, this was something. So that's what it goes into it, right? This thinking he's guilty. They're already concluding like he's guilty. Hey, we've got this piece of technology that says XYZ. Technology can't lie, therefore you're guilty. And and that's like
that's dangerous.
it's dangerous. You see
Yeah.
them react that way, like in the episode, these Starfleet officers, but then what I was thinking, connecting it to our culture like now, boy, that's everywhere in our culture now, right? So it's very
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, 100%. And we've seen throughout Star Trek and other sci-fi stuff that computers can be manipulated and reprogrammed and stuff all the time. I mean, it's a very common thing to have in a plot in order to add drama and mystery into something. As well, the computer was hacked, the computer was reprogrammed, something was messed up with the computer. They tried to cover their tracks. Initial indications seems like this is what actually happened, but in reality, they do some digging and find out that, oh no, just kidding, that's not actually what happened. The person who's being accused of something, they were right. The computer was manipulated or messed with in some way. So from a Star Trek perspective, being that TOS is the first Star Trek, this would have been kind of one of the earliest examples of that. We see this same idea play out many times throughout the other Star Trek series. For me, the one that immediately comes to mind is the episode in the Pale Moonlight on DS9 where they fake the meeting. Remember the data rod that they
Oh yeah.
fake with the quote unquote video between the Romulans and the secret Romulan Dominion meeting, and then that Romulan guy shows up and he's like, "It's a fake." We all know
Hmm.
the classic meme that everybody likes to use. It's a fake. That's another example of something being manipulated where, well, the video shows clear evidence that this is how it happened. But then you learn, well, actually, no, that's not true. That was manipulated and faked in order to um, spin the truth or to get something to happen or have a certain outcome.
Hmm.
And so this to me is one of the earliest, if not the earliest example in Star Trek I can think of where that's happened.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And um when Commodore Stone, so Commodore Stone he's the highest ranking person there. And when he sees this transcript that Spock is given to him, like he's got this sworn deposition from Captain Kirk that says one thing, and then he sees this transcript that is completely opposite, and then he is totally in a conundrum. Like, what does he do? And he has to say, Captain Kirk, like, um, are you sure? Like, your sworn deposition is are you sure you're saying this? And Captain Kirk's like, yes. And then all he can do is like, because he puts 100% of his trust in this video from the machine. Then he goes, well, I can only conclude that like you're committing willful perjury, and then that sets like everything in motion and things become like really interesting.
Yeah, see, I don't like that he says that you're willingly per
Yeah.
committing perjury.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that's a misstep on Commodore Stone.
Mm-hmm.
Because so Commodore Stone's already got it in his mind that because the video, the record tapes show that something happened different to what Kirk's saying, that automatically means that Kirk is lying. And like
Mm-hmm.
you said, right? It's this idea that the absolute truth is in the computer and that they have total confidence in the computer rather than trusting the man who has a up to that point a stellar record, right? This is the captain of the flagship of the Federation, and you're going to trust a computer over your captain.
Mm-hmm.
If
Yeah.
I was Kirk, that'd be very disheartening. That they are literally you are swearing, in a sworn statement that what you are saying is true and accurate, and they're going to take the word over a machine over you. That to me would be real disheartening.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I agree. It'd be totally disheartening. And at the moment, at this point in the episode, Kirk hasn't even seen the video, like or the transcript. I think he's just like in his mind knows, hey, this is what
Yeah.
happened. And shortly after, I think Commodore Stone and Kirk are in a private meeting themselves, deciding, okay, where's this gonna go? Kind of, they're gonna
Yeah.
do an inquiry. It's just them and the computer, like talking, and Commodore Stone's like asking all of these like questions.
And I don't think Kirk sees the video for the first time until they're in the actual court martial,
Yeah, in
in
the
the
trial.
courtroom setting,
Yeah,
right? That
yeah,
that's when he actually sees it. And I love the way they did that in this episode where uh they have Kirk there on the chair, right? And they're playing the video and everything, and they show Kirk's expression when they play the record of what happened, and you can just
yeah.
see where he's just like, Wait a minute, what?" Because he knows what happened. He was there, but yet he's got video evidence showing contrary to what he's saying. I mean, that if you're Kirk, that would have to be very upsetting because you know that the computer has some very damning evidence against you, even though you know exactly what happened and you know what the truth is.
Yeah. Yeah, isn't that's interesting? There's this both Commodore Stone and Commodore Stone and Captain Kirk, they're very proud individuals, very proud men,
Yeah.
right? So, um, Captain Kirk is replaying these events over and over and over in his mind, and he's believing, no way I could have made that mistake. There's no way I could have made that mistake. Um, and I'm not going to admit, like, or I'm not going to say that I was exhausted, Like, no way. Like, he's very proud. He's like, no, I did everything proper.
Yeah.
And likewise, Commodore Stone, he's also a very proud man. Like, he's saying, hey, there's only like one in a million like individuals could do the like job we've done, like captaining like a starship. Um, and we don't want to do anything that dishonors the service or dishonors like what it is to be like a starship like captain. Very proud man because he's taking that seriously. Like that esteem of being like a starship like captain is like is huge, right?
Yeah.
So Commodore Stone is like, no, we can't have it look like one of our captains has done this, has made a mistake and then lied about it. And and there's the idea like they both kind of lack a little bit of like hubris of like, like he and that that's why there's this conflict right there. They're so they're so proud, and then you've got that like friction moment, like where Commodore Stone does not want Captain Kirk to go through a court martial to do this trial, but Captain Kirk's like, no way I could have made this mistake. I demand a trial,
Yeah.
right? And so you've got that really, really great like moment of conflict with them.
And that's what I don't like in this in
Hmm.
this early on in this episode from Commander Stone or I
Yeah,
keep wanting to say
I know,
Commander.
me too.
Sorry, I am so tired. My words are going. Commodore Stone. What I don't like about it in this episode early on with him as a character, and that's he's the focus of this episode in the spotlight, is that he's already, it appears, made up his mind that this thing has happened, right? That this is how the events happened, and because that's happened this way, he doesn't want to see Kirk be ruined. He doesn't want this to cause a massive controversy. I mean, think about this, right? Even at this point in Kirk's career, he's already arguably the most famous captain in Starfleet. I don't think there's too much disagreement with that at this point, right? I mean, we're still really early in his career. But yet he's the captain of the Enterprise. So imagine the waves that would make throughout the Federation if the captain of the Enterprise lied about something that happened and it resulted in a crewman's death. And he's accused of perjury because he was made a sworn statement this happened and they found they lied. I mean, it'd be a big deal, right? So I get where Commodore Stone is coming from in that regard, but like at the same time, don't you as this Commodore in this position owe it to the Federation, Starfleet, and to Kirk to hear everything out and then make a decision or, or something like that, right? Than just to assume that, well, he's lied. And therefore, because of that, now we want to try to protect him and protect the Federation from any kind of, bad thing happening.
Yeah, yeah,
I think that's a big misstep on Commodore Stone's part. Like you have a lot of assumptions about what happened, and you haven't even seen everything yet. You don't have all the information. How can you make a really good decision as a leader? You're in this high up position. How can you make an informed decision if you have not gathered all of the information and you're just solely relying on a computer? I mean, at this point in the Federation and Starfleet, don't they know that this kind of stuff can, like, computers can be manipulated and things can be, they would know that, wouldn't they?
you would think they would.
If
Yeah.
a lieutenant commander can manipulate the computer a certain way, don't you think would know that those the records can be falsified? I
Yeah.
mean, come on. To me, that's a gross oversight on Commodore Stone's part at this
Yeah.
point in the episode.
Yeah. But it is like they talk about early in the episode they talk about, hey, is the computer malfunctioning? Is everything right? And Kirk does say, hey, yeah, Mr. Spock ran like whatever kind of diagnostics on the computer and it seems like everything is like working right? So yeah, Commodore Stone has like two pieces of information. He's got the computer transcript and then he's got Captain Kirk's like his the deposition, sworn deposition. And this is where you go like, okay, um, one one piece of data right there is is from a machine. The other piece of data is from a human being. And then what, how do you value like each of those? I've been like on the other side of where like I make in 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 one of my jobs, like I make a decision, right? Um and I thought, oh, I was absolutely correct. I made this decision, I made this call, like, and it was videoed. So this was like in video, and I was so certain. I had a team, and I said, I made the decision. I'm right. I made this call. Everything goes forward, and then we replay the tapes get replayed, and they go, oh no, I was wrong. I actually was wrong, and we had to go back and we had to reverse what happened. So I have been in this situation where I feel like I was so certain that I went through all these checks that I did what I was supposed to do. And then to realize when I see the video, I'm like, oh no, I missed it. Like a fraction of a second. It was
Yeah.
like a fraction of a second different. It
But you
was
didn't have Finney manipulating the tapes though, Chris. There was no Finney who used AI to manipulate the video.
yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah. So it was interesting. Yeah. It would have been nicer though, right, if Commodore Stone would have maybe taken a little more time, like paused a little more,
do do
reflect.
do
Yeah.
some more due diligence. I mean, you're talking about the captain of the flagship.
Hmm.
Don't you owe it to not only the Federation and Starfleet, but like I said, also Kirk and everybody involved? Don't you owe it to go back and say, well, let's run some checks of the video. Let's run some checks of the record tapes. So they said the computer, they had that Spock had run diagnostics and the
Yeah.
computer seemed to be operating properly. But did they actually go and look at the videotapes to verify to make sure it hadn't been they have to know it's possible. Don't they have ways of being able to figure that out?
Yeah,
This
you
is in the
think.
this is in the 2200s, Chris. We're in 2025 and we can figure out that things have been monkeyed with. So they should be able to as well at that point in time. I don't know. To me, yeah, I know I'm on a little bit of a tangent here, but I just feel like it's not that it's not that I don't like Commodore Stone, and we'll kind of talk about the character as a whole at the end when we wrap the episode up. But I just think early on here, I don't feel like he did enough due diligence
Hmm.
in this process, and I think he just took too much at face value
Hmm.
rather than diving more deep into things. And I understand, like you said, right? He's got a human being versus a machine, and he has these preconceived notions going into the actual courtroom. I think in his mind that the machine is correct,
Yeah.
and you're leading
Yeah.
it, right? You're a part of a panel of people that are leading the court martial. I mean, I don't. You can't. You have to be objective. So going into it with the preconceived notion is kind of that's not good.
The part that Commodore Stone is definitely not objective on, because you you see this on how he talks about it, uh is protecting the image of the service. He is not objective about that at all, right? So he was a captain. Captain Kirk's a captain. He is very nervous about like, hey, tarnish the image of the service. We absolutely do not want that to happen. He is so that is biasing him so much that that's this part of like why he doesn't want to go through this court martial thing. He's already drawn his conclusion, right? I think
Right.
I think transcript says this, it's gonna tarnish like Captain Kirk. The service is gonna look terrible. This is gonna go out. This is gonna be scandalous. It was, I don't want to do that. Like as a Commodore, I want to protect like the image of the service, and that definitely gets into, I think, interferes with like his objectivity. Like he wants to protect the image like at all cost. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
At the
only
behe
yeah
at the yeah
yeah
at the behest of the truth.
hmm
Right? I
yeah.
mean, if you're saying I want to protect the service, you are literally saying that matters more than the truth because he thinks he already knows the truth,
He
right?
thinks he already knows the truth, right? Because he's putting too much like weight on on uh on the transcript. And it's not until like Captain Kirk really asserts his right to say, "Hey, I demand a trial. I demand a trial right now." that the Commodore was like, all right.
And good for Kirk, right? Because Kirk knows what his rights are. Kirk knows, he is adamant that what he did was right. And what I love in the episode that they do, even though I'm trying to figure out where the camera on the bridge was that showed it, when it shows the zoomed in of his hand on the buttons and
Yeah.
you see them all labeled. Like, first of all, okay, this is a little bit of a humorous take, but first of all, why the hell does the captain have a button on his chair to hit the eject button for a pod? Why is that on the captain's chair? Shouldn't that be back at like the science station or something, or like down in engineering or somewhere near the? Why is that on the captain? Why would the captain release the pod? This pod really has me up in arms, Chris. I don't understand it.
It must be really important because there's only so much room on the arm of the captain's chair for buttons. And so this is taking like what? This is taking like at least 25% of the room
Yes,
for all the
yeah.
buttons. It must be super this stuff. The pod's got to be super important.
It's a strategic asset of some kind that we've only heard about, I think, in this episode. We never hear about the pod again, Chris. Um, it's weird, but yeah, it's you're right. It's so important that it takes up a quarter of the captain's buttons on one arm of his chair. That's kind of weird to me.
So to
Uh,
replace the pod must be really expensive, I guess.
that's true. It
Yeah.
must be. It must be. Yeah, I don't really understand it, but that aside, that little bit of campiness aside, uh, when they show that image zoomed in of Kirk's hand on the very important pod button on his
Yeah.
chair,
Yes.
uh, and he instead of pushing the red alert button, he pushes the pod release button. Again, we have no idea why that's on there, but somebody decided it needed to be on the captain's chair to make the decision. Then I believe they go back to a shot on Kirk's face,
Hmm.
and the shot of his face is just this like it's almost like he's seen a ghost,
Oh yeah.
right?
Yeah.
He has this it's almost this moment of, oh no, is it possible that maybe I did goof up? And then a little bit of self-doubt creeps in.
Hmm.
And Kirk's able to squash that. But I really like that. I like that they did that contrast between seeing the image and then it jumps back to Kirk. I think is how the sequence goes, and the shot of Kirk's face where he's just like, "Oh no, what could I have? What could I have done?" Right? Because Kirk has been up to that point. Kirk has been just pounding the table. He knows with beyond a shadow of a doubt that he did what he said he did, and
Yeah.
everything happened the way he said it happened. But then that happens, and so from the perspective of the tapes being altered, that was a really important thing. My question though is, okay, the tape gets altered to show that instead of what Kirk actually did. How do you do that? I guess they have their own version of AI. Like Finney
Yeah.
was like, "Hey, Chat GPT, I need a video showing Kirk pushing the pod button that kills me.
Yeah,
Can you can you
exactly.
can you intertwine that into this video?" I don't know how that would work, but that was from the perspective of that character, that was important to have that in the altered version because that is very, very damning evidence against
Yeah.
Kirk.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like the scene shortly that thereafter this with Kirk and his attorney, Mr. Samuel Cogley, Samuel
Yeah.
T. Cogley, right? And so um what are you
No,
thinking?
I was just
Yeah.
gonna say we wrote it for Dominic and Connor's old show they were on.
Yeah.
Used to write trivia for them, and the
Oh.
name of Kirk's lawyer in this episode was a trivia question, and nobody got it right. So
Oh, yeah.
we
We did.
stumped them. It was great. It was really
We
fun.
did. I love this. I love this lawyer
Yeah, he's
for
fantastic.
him. Um But the scene between, so this is after Kirk has seen the video now. He's just kind of in this private meeting with his attorney. And yeah, he's going through his mind. He's like, could I have done it? You're like, did this happen? Was it possible? Did I choke under pressure and like not know it? He's replaying it and replaying it. And I love how he goes through this process of like replaying it, some self-doubt, replaying it, and then going, no, that's not what I did. And then he gets more and more and more confident, like,
Yeah.
go, no, this is not. what I did. And um that's just like who he is like as a human being, like as an individual, right? He trusts like himself. He's been like as he said, it was not his first crisis. He's been through a lot of training. He trusts like his ability to perform under pressure and to make these decisions. And he goes, "No, this is not what I did." And I like that a lot.
I agree. And I think the flow of the episode is wonderful in this because you go from absolute, complete confident Kirk to I know what I did. I know I know the order of things. I know I didn't crack under pressure, all of that, to now we're going to dip down and go, oh, crap. Could I possibly have folded under pressure? Did I really do what I thought I did? Or did I accidentally mess up? To back to full confidence. And so that adds a really great dramatic, like huge highs and huge lows within the character of Kirk himself throughout the episode. And I think
Yeah.
that was really wonderful.
Yeah. And in a way, like when I think about that moment, like he's also because he's seen this video transcript. He's seen the image from the machine, right? And he takes that like it causes him that much self-doubt because he can't believe that the machine lied either at
Hmm.
first, right? He goes like, well, it's a machine, it's not gonna lie. Like he was so confident, like uh, uh, near throughout this episode, like he was smiling and laughing. He was like, hey, I'm innocent. There's no way like it's gonna show that I did anything wrong. So when he sees that like image, like he is devastated because he as well puts a lot of clout in what the computer's saying, enough like to give him that much self-doubt. And then he's going through this internal conflict of like, computer's showing this. Why is it showing this? Could I really have done this bad? Um, and I think it's interesting evolution because he kind of comes to the conclusion like, no, the the human part of me that I trust is telling me this and this and this and this. That is right. That is what I have to believe. Not,
Yeah.
not this computer transcript thing. And I think that is really cool, right? He's got to believe what this human part of him is telling him, what he remembers, like what he went through in the training. And so I think that's kind of really cool evolution that he goes through in those few seconds.
Yeah. And I wrote down on the notes here that that scene between Kirk and Commodore Stone that you had mentioned just a few minutes ago
Hmm.
that I think is really, really well written. I love it. And I know you said you did too. And that's where um, Commodore Stone says that it's going to smear Starfleet if a captain were to be court-martialed, right? So just even just the idea of a captain having a court-martial just
Yeah.
smear Starfleet as a whole, right? And you made a great point about how Commodore Stone wants to protect the integrity and the everything of Starfleet. And Kirk is just completely insulted by the whole idea. And he says, so that's the way we do it now, huh? We sweep the whole thing under the rug and me along with it. Not on your life. I intend to fight. And that really ticks off Commodore Stone. And he says, then you draw a general court. Kirk replies, draw it. I demand it. And right now, Commodore Stone, right now. So I love that. I think that exchange was just so perfectly written. It was
Hmm.
absolutely fabulous. And this is where that particular scene, that exchange in the dialogue to me is the first part of why I think Commodore Stone has a little bit of a mark against him here in the
Hmm.
episode
Hmm.
because Kirk is calling Commodore Stone out, saying, "Oh, we're just going to sweep this under the rug, and you're gonna throw me out to pasture because of it, because of fear of some image."
Hmm.
Rather than, and I think the underlying text here that's not said, like we mentioned earlier, was instead of going after the truth, they just want to sweep it under the rug for fear of some type of bad image.
Hmm.
And that to me I don't like that aspect of Commodore Stone. He's not looking for the truth. He's just looking to, like you said, he's looking to protect Starfleet,
Hmm.
and that's not his job. His job as in this position as a Commodore should be to get after the truth, especially when it involves one of your starship captains, especially arguably the most well known in all of Starfleet. You got to protect it. You got to look out for him too in a certain way, which means you have to give him the opportunity to defend himself.
Hmm.
So that's where I think early on in the episode, Commodore Stone has some serious missteps.
Yeah, throughout Star Trek, the Commodores and Admirals, like this is a great like contrast of perspectives because the Commodores and Admirals are always looking, they have this maybe, well, it's definitely a different perspective, but is maybe a broader perspective, and a lot of times it is Starfleet centric perspective. But
Yes.
what's the best for Starfleet? How do you protect Starfleet? How do you make Starfleet, you know, the image of Starfleet good? Well, I mean, whether it's on individual rights, um, or tarnishing it, like you see this right throughout
Yeah.
throughout Star Trek, and I think that's great.
And that's what's going to make this Spotlight series so incredible is that we are going to go through all sorts of iterations of exactly what you just mentioned through a variety of different characters, admirals, commodores, captains who are hell bent on this idea of whatever it is that they do, it always falls under that guise of, well, we got to protect the Federation, we got to protect Starfleet, and to heck with the individual, right? We're gonna see that a lot in TNG.
Hmm.
A number of times we're gonna see that, whether it's with Admiral retired Sati, whether it's with Admiral Pressman, um, Admiral Nechayev too. I think in some
Hmm.
respects we're gonna see that a lot throughout TNG and into DS9. It is very prevalent. So I'm really glad that you brought that up because I think that's going to be one of the underlying themes of this entire Spotlight series.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. You know, Commodore Stone, like how he behaved during the trial. Now, I really
Much
liked
different.
much different.
Yes.
I
Yep.
really liked how he behaved during the trial. Um, but before the trial, Kirk's got to he's got to get his lawyer, Samuel T. Cogley, which was a trip, and then he also finds time to meet with Ariel, uh,
Yeah.
his
His
who is
long lost love that we meet one time in one episode.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so he like he is so like Captain Kirk is so like confident. He's so like assured of himself. Like I see that like that first meeting. This is near the beginning of the episode where he doesn't realize that she is um the prosecuting attorney, and he meets her for drinks, and he's just like
Very carefree. Yeah.
very carefree, not a
Yeah.
care in the world. He's like, yeah, how's it going?
It's true though, right? I mean,
Yeah.
so this first meeting you're talking about with him and Ariel, this is classic Kirk, right? This is I haven't, it's been I think she rattles off something like 4 years, 7 months, and a certain number of days. Very Data-esque,
Hmm.
actually, right? That counting down the specific number of days, or even like a Spock like. Um, and it's been so long, yet he just kind of swoons up to her and is just trying to court her and everything. And they haven't seen each in 4 years, almost 5 years. And it's like nothing's happened. And hey, how's it going, babe? Like, how are you? Like, it's so classic Kirk. And I love the exchange.
Yeah. Yeah. And she's still like enamored with him, right? And so
She is.
yeah, so that was a great exchange. Um and then this is funny because like you all through Star Trek, like there's no there's no such thing like as a conflict of interest. So she's like
Definitely
his
not.
right?
Definitely
Like
not. Yeah. I
she's
mean,
the,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah, she's the prosecuting attorney like against him, like her love that she obviously still loves.
Yeah. In our world, in our reality, this wouldn't fly because I believe the JAG office for Starfleet would have weaned this out, going,
Yeah.
"Oh, you have they would have done their research, go, you have a past relationship, so therefore you can't be." the prosecuting attorney, right? But it certainly, in this case, makes for some great courtroom drama.
Hmm.
And what I love about this is that, you know, he's like you say, not a care in the world. He's just kind of going on and on. He's all relaxed and chill. And then she's like, well, hate to say it, but Starfleet's legal division assigned me as the prosecuting officer, and that I'm going to have to do everything in my power in order to remove you from service in a not so nice manner.
Right.
And the whole mood just changes. It's all okay. It's almost like, hey, you've seen this girl you haven't seen in years. She's like an ex-girlfriend, and you guys have a thing, and you're trying to maybe rekindle some feelings there. And she just drops the bomb on you, like, hey, I'm getting married. So sorry, see ya. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
this kind of she drops this huge bombshell on him, and then just leaves,
Yeah.
which was very um I'm gonna say like gangster, but just very like, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like she just like, I'm the prosecuting attorney and it's my job to kick you out. See ya. And then walks out. Very like one of those memes, where people throw like the glasses on the people and then the cigar. I mean, just very like, yeah.
I know. Talk about like having a bad day
Oh my
as a captain.
gosh.
This would be like the bad day, you know.
If they didn't call this episode court martial, they could have named it something like, the rotten, no good, very bad day or something. And there's a kid's book when we were kids that was named something like that.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was, because this, yeah, he's having a bad day because this is what happened. The next scene, because she says, oh, because he's like, well, do you have any recommendations on an attorney? She's like, Samuel T. Cogley, he's gonna visit you, like he's gonna pay you a visit. And the next scene is like, Kirk's having a bad day because he enters his quarters and he goes straight for a drink. The drink's there. That's the
Yeah.
first thing he does. He goes for the drink.
Yeah.
But Cogley's in his quarters with all of his books,
Yeah.
which I thought was fantastic. Um, right? You meet Cogley and he's just an eccentric attorney. He's very charismatic, but he's got like a very peculiar personality. Um, and then you have that exchange between Kirk and Cogley because Cogley's like, these books, I've got thousands of them. I'd love to like show you my library. Like there's so much you can learn in these books. And Kirk is like, well, why don't you just like use, I just got this computer right here. And then Cogley starts talking about that. And I love how he's talking about it because he goes, what? This computer? It's got yeah, the computer's got all this synthesized like information in its database. But if you really want to learn what the intent of the individuals were, you have to go and you have to look at these books, and you have to read them and you have to study them, and it takes longer. But this is how you really understand like the intent of men, like or humans, the intent of humans. And I think that is such a contrast between, the machine and AI and all of the information um, and data that is stored in the machine and then human beings, where they are and how a human being is going to synthesize and kind of learn and acquire wisdom, not information, but like wisdom. And so that's where I think Samuel Cogley is such a great character in this episode.
I love that they made him old school.
Hmm.
And do you feel like this is a contrast that's very applicable to today? This
Hmm.
idea of
Ah.
kids using AI and chat GPT and all these things in school to do their schoolwork, as opposed to cracking open a book and going to a library and doing that old school research and reading the intent, like Cogley says, of man and learning that way versus what a computer tells you. I think it's a wonderful metaphor for today's world, even that's so applicable given the way things are now and the way research is done now, compared to what it was done before. So I really like that a lot. I think that was a really nice touch. I think that contrast was way ahead of its time. Like so much in Star Trek was ahead of its time. And now here we are, 50 plus years later, making that comparison to the realities of the real world.
Hmm. Yeah, that's why I felt that this episode was so prescient, so foretelling, and like in how things are right now, like in our world. And you're absolutely like right, Zach. I mean, people in organizations, like, and in school, like, and it's not that you or I are anti-technology. We
Right.
used,
Yeah. No,
yeah,
100%.
yeah,
We
we
have these
use,
things here,
yeah,
you know?
yeah, but we are using um technology and ChatGPT and AI to do these things, right? Um, that maybe if you step back, there's can be a lot of wisdom gained from doing it yourself.
Yeah.
And it can be as simple as like me composing a message to you. I I want to personally compose a message to you. I don't want to ask a machine like to say, hey, compose a message machine so that I can send it to you. I think
Yeah.
the humanity starts to get lost, which is why Cogli is such like a great character, right? So,
He is very relevant for today's world, I think. It's really fascinating because yeah, like you said, I think technology uh replaces the human factor uh in a detrimental way at times. Not
mhm.
always, but can be detrimental to removing that, like you said, that humanity element. So very very well said,
Yeah,
my friend. Now in the courtroom itself, we're not going to just get Commodore Stone,
right.
right? As part of this, we're going to actually going to have a panel of representatives to include Commodore Stone, who's the presiding officer, along with Starfleet representatives Lindstrom and starship captains Kranovsky and Chandra. And I swear I've heard the name Chandra before. I think that's the name of a Starfleet ship at some point, either in TNG or some other Star Trek series. I've heard
Hmm.
that name before. I think it was just named starship was named after that with that same name. Whether it's named after this character or not, I don't know, but that name sounds super familiar.
Sure does. Completely agree. When I uh Strange New Worlds coming to mind, the I don't know if it's the right like person, but not Quality of Mercy, but the Strange New Worlds like episode based on Quality of Mercy. I think there was an outpost, one of the Starbase outposts. I don't remember if the individual was named Chandra, but
Oh, that could
no
be.
idea.
Yeah, I just know I've heard that name somewhere and I can't place
Yeah.
it. So for those of you watching or
Hmm.
listening,
Let us
leave us a
know.
comment. Leave us a comment below or send us a message if you've heard that name before and if it is indeed somewhere used in Star Trek again, like on a starship as a starship name or something like that, because
Hmm.
that name sounded really familiar when I saw that. So
Yeah, absolutely. So the trial, like Kirk doesn't object to anyone that's involved in his trial, and the trial sets off, the events of the prosecutor calling the witnesses. So,
mhm.
um, she's got I think three witnesses that she calls, including Spock, including another ensign, I believe, from the starship, and including Dr. McCoy. Um, and I love I don't know about you, see how you felt about how Spock describes like the captain. Like Spock is not disputing the computer, right? He's just saying, I know Captain Kirk. I have observed him. He would not do this. Like, and he's just going, that's my conclusion. He goes, I'm not disputing what the records show. I'm just saying that somehow they're wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I Spock does it in only the way Spock can,
Hmm.
right? Completely removes emotion from the whole thing and says, based on my knowledge of him, it is literally impossible for him to do something like this.
Yeah.
Even though he says, regardless of what they saw, he says the computer is inaccurate. Regardless, the computer's inaccurate, and he's programmed the computer before and knows and all that stuff. But I know it's inaccurate,
Hmm.
and Spock does admit it's his opinion, but regardless, he's adamant about it. And so I think I'm glad you brought up Spock's input into the court because I think that was really an important piece as well,
Hmm.
especially the role that Spock plays in this episode of helping to figure everything out. It is also fascinating that Cogley does not cross-examine And he has a, I think even Commodore Stone says, you should be basically, he doesn't say these exact words, but something to the effect of like, you can cross-examine. And he's like, nope, nope. That was really weird too. If I was Kirk, I'd be like, dude, what are you doing? Like, come on, man. You're supposed to
Hmm.
be my turn. You're representing me. You're not even going to ask any questions to these witnesses. Like, come on.
Hmm.
So that was a really interesting turn of events there. That Cogley just pretty much doesn't want to ask any questions to the people that are brought up.
Yeah, and this is where I liked what Commodore Stone did, right? Because Cogley was like, no, no questions, and Commodore Stone was like, hey, you've had three witnesses. Are you sure you don't want to ask any? Are you sure you do not want to ask any questions? Are you trying to abdicate like your rights? So in that respect, I was thinking Commodore Stone is trying to look out for Captain Kirk like as much as he can in that particular position.
Yeah, so the reason why he doesn't cross-examine, and I find this also very interesting, Cogley says that their testimony is just all the preliminary business
Yeah.
stuff out of the way, right? And he says, nope, that's just preliminary business. He's like, I want Kirk on the stand. I want him to come up and defend himself. I know he doesn't say that those exact words, but that's his intent behind it, right? That um, it's not about all this stuff up front. It's really about what Kirk has to say in comparison to what the records show.
Yeah. Yeah. And when Kirk does come up on the stand, the computer starts introducing Kirk, like who he is, and then it starts into all of the different like accolades and accomplishments
Yeah.
that Kirk has. Um, and you have this interesting exchange, like um, Ariel says, "Hey, we're not disputing that he's really accomplished," and Cogley's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, we can just keep things like moving." But then he pauses and he says something really interesting. He says, "Well, I don't want to halt the wheels of progress." But then he pauses and he goes, "But let's not let the wheels of progress run someone over, like
Mm,
while that happens." And I thought that was a great like phrase as well. And he says, let's kind of listen to what he's done, what Captain Kirk has done, like as a human being.
yeah.
I think, and that is like, it's just a really, really small line, but the wheels of progress running people over and running ideas over um, is a real thing, that we've observed. It has so many, when you say progress, there are so many kind of negative consequences that happen when you don't slow down and pause to say, hey, what are these different kind of outcomes or effects that could happen?
Yeah. There's a really key line, I think, in this episode that is, I don't want to say understated, but it probably kind of gets overlooked a little bit. Because this is going to set, I think some the wheels in motion towards Kirk being proven innocent. And that is when Kirk is back in his quarters and Spock comes in and says, "Yeah, there was he ran a survey of the computer." Kirk says, "Let me guess, nothing." And Kirk says, "Hey, I got nothing. I got no other orders for you." Um, and then he says something to Spock that I think is a foundational part of this episode. This is where everything turns,
Hmm.
and that is where he said that that Spock should be able to beat his next commanding officer at chess.
Hmm.
That's a big deal. So that happens, right? He says, you should be able to beat your next commanding officer at chess, which you kind of think initially like, oh, ha ha ha, right, whatever. But there's a couple things there. First of all, to me, that's almost like Kirk is kind of giving up a little bit. He's saying, well, I mean, the tapes show what they show. Spock could just come in and tell Kirk that another survey of the computer had been done. He didn't find anything. So I think Kirk's kind of feeling like maybe his fate's being sealed right there.
Yeah.
But I think what Kirk does in saying that, and he doesn't realize it is, that then sends Spock to go play 3D chess against the computer. and he plays 3D chess against the computer and beats the computer 5 times in a row. And we
Yeah.
learn that Spock programmed the computer to play chess, and that the way he programmed it, that at the absolute best, the game should always end in a draw. But yet he was able to beat the computer 5 times.
Yeah.
This is now setting the wheels in motion to help Kirk out. But it's that line to me that Kirk says to Spock that I think is a really significant, important part of this episode.
Gives Spock the idea.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's also Kirk kind of feeling like his fate may be sealed regardless of what he knows happened or didn't happen and everything because of what has been shown and the fact that they have no way of proving that the computers are wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
Until Spock goes off and takes some logic with him
Mm-hmm.
to try and get this
Mm-hmm.
thing figured out. So that line is almost kind of feels like a little bit of a throwaway line, but if you really break it down and dissect it, that line is a really instrumental part of this episode.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what that's what helps Kirk for sure. Yeah. That so with that, right, Spock tells Cogley this, and the trial's about to end.
Yeah,
So it's like the the Commodore asks, "Hey, does the prosecuting side rest?" And she says, "Yes, I rest." And then he asks, "Does the defense rest?" And Cogley says, "Yeah, well, we rest as well." But soon, like after that, right? I think it's both Spock and McCoy like enter the courtroom like right after, and they whisper to Cogley. So you've got some last minute, last moment courtroom drama, just like
yeah,
you should always have in a court show. Like,
yeah,
what were we talking about? Like, yeah, they've got all those court shows. Law and
yeah. Like
Order.
Law and
Law and
Order,
Order.
and I mean, there's a million spin-offs of Law and Order, so sure. I've actually never seen the show, but
Yeah. So Cogley's like, hey, I've got new evidence, um, and this is really important. And this is also a part where I feel like Commodore Stone was really advocating for Kirk because Shaw objects. She's like, hey, the defense rested. This should be over, right? It's all done. But he's like, no, let's let's give it a chance. Let's hear what's going on. And so I give him like a lot of credit to continue things to kind of at this point he's like, hey, let's try to get to the bottom of things as much as we can.
yeah, as a presiding officer, he could have just said, "Well, you've rested. Sorry, that's it." He could have nixed it right there, but he
Hmm.
didn't. So yes, I agree. I think this is where this is the part of Commodore Stone that I'm like, okay, he's kind of turned things around here from the way he was earlier with some of his preconceived notions and biases and lack of objectiveness going into this, especially as a presiding officer, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, here's another question I have. In addition to the pod and the importance of the pod and the button on the captain's chair that releases said pod, uh, they somehow have this new information that shows that the computer program banks are showing signs of being tampered with, but didn't they've said multiple times that they ran diagnostics at the computer that they didn't find anything. How is it that playing 3D chess with the computer somehow shows signs of tampering? I I know I'm digging too deep into some of the stuff here, but I'm just like, wait a second. How does that all of a sudden show signs of tampering, yet all the other tests and stuff they ran on the computer, nothing came back? It's just kind of inconsistent to me. I don't know how that exactly works, but
Yeah, I mean that's a great point and a great question. And we see this kind of play out like in today's world too, right?
yeah.
Where you've got like something, a piece of data that is created by some sort of information system or software or technology, and you have experts on both sides saying, well, I think the data, you look at this aspects of the data and it means this, or you can tell that it's authentic, or uh, or maybe it was tampered with. And then you have another side to say, oh, it's definitely tampered with because you've got these kind of attributes of the data showing you this at the file level, right? At the like the at the file level of whatever piece of data it is. So I think it's kind of, fascinating. Like that happens when you've got IT like experts with different kind of varying opinions on how they're looking at the attributes of the data.
And this is 200 plus years in the future. They would have. You
Yeah.
don't think they could have figured something? I mean, you're
Yeah.
telling me that Spock and the rest of the Enterprise crew were fooled by this lieutenant commander, and they couldn't figure out. He covered his tracks so well, and his tampering was so perfect on the dot that they couldn't figure it out until Spock
Mhm.
beats the computer playing chess. I mean, I can't push the I believe button on that one, Chris. I just can't do
No,
it.
I
There's
understand.
no amount of I believe, dust to sprinkle on this one to get me to. I don't know. That to me is a little bit crazy, but I digress.
No,
So,
I totally understand. Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
yeah,
But but this is one of my favorite like scenes of this episode. So Spock and McCoy have just come in. They've told Cogley there's this new evidence, and Cogley appeals to the court very eloquently, like saying, we're completely missing his right, Captain Kirk's right, the most important right to face like the accuser. And that's where like, what do you mean face the accuser? We've had these three different witnesses, we've got the transcript and we've got his deposition that says this, but they're missing like what Cogley's point is. It says, no, the accuser is the machine. And I thought, oh, that was so pivotal, like so key, because they weren't even thinking like in that fashion. And then this is my favorite line in this episode, and I just think an incredible line, like overall, where Cogley says, you know, we have to explore what the truth is, like in the name of humanity, fading in the shadow of the machine. I have to read that again. In the name of humanity, fading in the shadow of the machine. I, when I watched that, I wrote it down. I was like, that was what a beautiful like sentence that was.
yeah. Don't you feel too a little bit like maybe this is a real stretch here for me to make this comparison, Chris? Um, the idea of humanity fading in the shadow of the machine. Do you think people ever felt that way in the Blade Runner universe, where you have these replicants and stuff, and the idea of humanity fading into the background, and the machines taking the
Hmm.
forward on that?
Yeah.
I don't know. Just kind of had me thinking of some of these sci-fi shows where robots and machines tend to come to the forefront,
Hmm.
and humanity's taking a step back because of that. And I
Hmm.
wonder if we're going down that road ourselves in real life with the technology and the rapid progress of things. And I think we had a conversation about this on the phone the other day, and I love what you said about how so applicable this episode is to reality and the things that Cogley's bringing up about the machine vice humanity is really fantastic. So, um,
Yeah.
okay, I have a third thing now that
Yeah.
doesn't make
Yeah.
sense. Doesn't make sense to me in the episode. First was the Almighty Pod. Then we have the computer that somehow they couldn't figure out that it was tampered with until they played chess. Now the third thing I have is why would Commodore Stone agree to reconvene the court from the setting they were on at the Starbase to the bridge of the Enterprise? That doesn't make any sense to me. Like now,
Yeah.
because you literally have guys sitting on folding chairs on the Enterprise bridge. Okay, guys, time to reconvene the court here. We're on the board of the Enterprise bridge. It's not a courtroom now. Now it's just that seems a bit bizarre to me. You don't
Yeah.
really see that happen in any other court martial, court type settings throughout Star Trek. Where let's just take the court. Let's go back to my place. We'll figure it out there, right? Like it just doesn't work for me. So that was kind of weird as well. But they go back to the Enterprise, and I understand that maybe part of the reasoning there, right, is because that there's a lot of evidence there, and then I think it's is it after they go back to the Enterprise where Cogley says, oh well, actually, by the way, Lieutenant Commander Finney's not dead. Actually, it is. It's after they go back to the Enterprise,
Yeah.
where he says, "Gentlemen, I submit to you that Lieutenant Commander Ben Finney is not dead." And then they have this very bizarre thing where McCoy's taking a microphone and somehow records the sound of each person's heartbeat and then pushes some buttons and it filters out those noises and they're somehow able to narrow it down to there's one heartbeat on the ship and it's Finney's because they've got everybody else off the ship and it's a kind of a weird sequence of events. I'll be honest. This is kind of where to me where the episode turns into a little campiness.
Yeah. Would think they could just scan the ship for life forms.
I mean, can't you just scan for a signature of somebody? Yeah. Why do we need
Maybe.
a wireless microphone from the doctor to record your heartbeat and then somehow filter it out in the computer? And it's this was a strange sequence for me.
Maybe,
Once back on the
yeah.
bridge, yeah.
Yeah, maybe Finney had a way of shielding himself from any scans. Maybe he was hiding in a place where scans couldn't like penetrate and see who was there.
If he
Uh,
can manipulate the computer records to fool Spock, I'm going to
hmm
say this man can do anything. That he is an engineering wizard and
hmm
maestro. Because it's not easy to fool Spock, especially when it comes to the computer and those types of things. He's obviously a computer programmer.
Yeah.
One of his side gigs is computer programming. But as we learn, right, he programs a computer to play chess against himself or something. So that's very interesting. But then at this point, they're aboard the bridge, um, and they do this weird experiment and everything, and then the chase is on. This is then it turns into a little bit of a chase where they're off to a search on board the Enterprise, and I think Kirk's the one that volunteers to go to the area where they believe Finney is. They've located Finney in some part of the ship to go find
Yeah.
him.
Yeah, Kirk was and the way he went about it, I thought was pretty admirable. Like he goes to the Commodore, he goes, Commodore, this is Finney was this is my problem. I need to go like deal with it.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, okay. That's very like ad res uh, Commodore's all you can do is kind of respect that like from someone, right? So Kirk
Yeah.
does that. And and they find he finds Finney.
Yeah, a very old, like Finney's old. He's not young. He's not a spry guy, right? So him and Kirk get into a duel, and I'm thinking, I did not remember the whole thing about Finney being, you know, older than Kirk, and then he first appears. I'm like, oh my gosh, he's got to be the oldest lieutenant commander in Starfleet. I mean, how many lieutenant commanders do you see are that gray? I mean, he's got quite the salt and pepper action going on in the hair and the beard, right?
hmm
Um, so that was very interesting. Yeah, Finney's able to somehow figure it out, and then he intends to destroy the ship. And so this is the other. So Kirk fights Finney, and then goes to save the ship in the famous tube that we've seen in so many
Yeah.
episodes. Right, it climbs up, and he's got all these wires. And I love how this is the fourth thing that's kind of absurd to me. But okay, so Kirk climbs into the tube, and they got all the black wire, the black tubes hanging everywhere. And he just starts pulling stuff out. He's like, yep, pull that one out, and then I'll pull that one out, and I'll pull that one out. And they're like, oh, hey,
Then we're
congratulations.
good.
We have
Yeah.
we have power back, so we can elevate ourselves up so we don't, burn up in the atmosphere. Even though I would think with shielding, they could survive the atmosphere, just put the shields on. So, but they're losing orbit, right? They're decaying, their orbit's decaying, and so they have to get the power to boost the ship back up. All Kirk's got to do is go into the tube and just start pulling on the black hoses, and magically the ship's got power again. It's quite yeah. I couldn't put any I believe dust on that. That seemed a little bit like that's all it took. The dude just put some black wires in the thing, and then all you had to do was just pull them out. I guess in a certain order. I don't know.
Yeah, that I can understand.
It's I really do like this episode. These four things I found that were both funny but weird and just not believable at the same time. I kind of had to highlight them because they were kind of funny.
Yeah, it was. I completely understand.
Yeah.
So with this new revelation that Finney is alive, Commodore is like, "Hey, I'm dismissing this," right? And so saying anyone object to dismissing it,
Yeah.
and of course, Ariel doesn't. Lieutenant Shaw does not.
No,
She goes, no, let's dismiss it.
no, especially because at this point you can tell her feelings for Kirk have taken over, and she's
Oh
like,
yeah.
"Nah, I'm not even. No,
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah.
There's no reason to go any further here." I mean, she realizes Kirk is innocent, obviously, but then you can see it that she's like, "Yeah, no, I'm good." I do find it okay. Okay, now this is the fifth and final thing that I
Yeah.
have to add on my list of weird, funny, whatever you want to call it. So they're on the bridge at the end, right? And she looks around and she kind of has this sweet ass. She's like, you think it'd be inappropriate to kiss a starship captain on the bridge of his ship? You think there'd be some kind of complete breakdown of discipline? And you think Kirk's going to turn down a kiss? Of course not. So he does, and then she leaves the bridge and he walks over to his seat, and it's almost like everybody. It's almost like I could see the whole scene if we saw the whole bridge when this happened, but you don't. You just see the two of them, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's even a security officer on the bridge, maybe. And it's almost like everybody looks over when they're kissing, and then as soon as they stop, they're like,
Yeah. Didn't
"Yeah,
see anything.
I saw nothing. I was looking at my watch, like just very, kind of, ha, 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 It is very like kind of a corny moment, and funny at the same time. And also this idea of like, the captain's gonna kiss somebody on the bridge on duty in front of everybody. That's probably a little bit over the line, I would think. But it's Kirk, so we kind of come to expect
Yeah,
that.
of course it's going to happen. Yeah. And when you pan out, you realize that they were right next to the turbo lift and the security guard the
The
was
red
right
shirts.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was like just like a couple feet away.
Yeah. Exactly.
I like that.
That's what I mean. Like, what was he doing? Like, he like looks over at the corner of his eye and sees him kiss, and he's just like, nope, I'm not seeing anything.
Yeah. He's got a
I
standing
don't know.
attention.
Yeah, right. It's very. I did find the funny exchange at the end between Spock and Kirk and McCoy was hilarious. Where McCoy or Kirk says she's a very good lawyer, and Spock said, I mean, after he just like made out with her on the bridge in front of everybody, but because it wasn't like a little peck. I mean, they got a good one in there. And then Spock says, obviously, and McCoy says, indeed, she is. And that's almost like Spock and McCoy are like, yeah, we get it. We know. We just saw you mac out with her on a bridge there. You were macking on her
They're
in
teasing
front of
her. Yeah.
everybody. Yeah, yeah. So that was a funny little exchange, and you're just like, oh, Kirk, just he has no he has no vanity. He's just like, nope, I'll just kiss this girl and mac on her here right on the bridge in front of everybody because I'm the captain and I'm a ladies' man and yeah,
He can't help
it
it.
was funny.
It's like
No,
part
he
of his
can't.
DNA.
Yeah,
DNA, yeah.
yeah, he's. I mean, not to bring up the JJ movies, but I mean, if we were counting those as canon, which we're not, I mean, Kirk was getting the ladies at the academy. We saw that
Yeah.
he was with Uhura's roommate, the Orion. So even hiding under her bed. I mean, that was a great scene though, because that just fits the persona and builds that persona of Kirk, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it does.
makes sense. But okay, well, let's wrap up, Chris, and give me your final thoughts overall, since the Spotlight series is really spotlighting these admirals and captains in Starfleet. Give me your overall thoughts on Stone, on Commodore Stone.
I really do like Commodore Stone. So he's an individual, right, that you go, he's very proud. He admires Kirk, actually. There's exchange where Kirk this is where Kirk is called as a witness, and Kirk is kind of describing his actions and saying, "Hey, this is not my first time under pressure. I reacted according to my training." And there's a back and forth scene where you see Kirk speaking and you see Commodore Stone like listening to Kirk. And so I might be reading into this but as I was looking at like Commodore Stone, like what I saw in Commodore Stone while Captain Kirk was speaking was Commodore Stone almost had this sense of like pride and respect as Captain Kirk was was speaking. He's such like a proud man and proud like of Starfleet, of course, proud of being a captain and knows that that again, there's only one like in a million people that can do what they do. So he is someone that has been there and felt the pressure, right? And it is Commodore Stone that he he lets the trial kind of progress to where it needs to go to finally unveil the truth. So he wasn't like in a hurry to close the trial down or during the trial, he let some things happen which was great to kind of find the truth there. I think his weakness, Commodore Stone's weakness, is that like there is some hubris there. Like so uh, he is so proud like of being a Starfleet like captain that he's afraid of anything that might tarnish that image. He doesn't want that image tarnished for Kirk, which would tarnish the image of the service overall and would tarnish the image of him. So he wants to protect that. And, that is both a strength and like a fault. So I could see it like to go to this extreme, like you could have some very like negative consequences that can happen where your over sense of pride will just get you into a very, very, very bad place, right? Just instead of pausing and being a little bit humble, or letting some other pieces of information kind of inform you. I mean, he got lucky, like in this one, right?
Yeah.
Because they were able to determine that the computer was reprogrammed. So in that sense, that really helped them out. But overall, like as a man, as a Commodore, I did like Commodore Stone a lot. And there's that friction that I really liked of these very two proud men at the beginning, right? And Kirk saying, "I demand a trial," and
Yeah.
Commodore Stone's like not wanting to do the trial because you're just gonna like smear the image of the service. So yeah, that's where I feel. I think he is a good like leader. He is a good Commodore. Um, he had a little bit of some missteps up there, but I think overall he was really good. How about you? What was your take on it?
Ditto.
Ditto? Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
in all seriousness, I do agree with what you said. I think he had some early on missteps. I think that once it got to trial, once it got to the court martial, I think he was fair. Uh, I think he, like you said, he let it play out, and he did the right thing in the end,
Yeah.
right? Um, he could have just as easily not allowed anything new to come in and say, nope, this is we've concurred as a panel and everything and so forth. Now, none of the other characters talk. I would have liked to have some of the other panelists that were part of the
Hmm.
court talk, right? Some of the other representatives that were there ask questions and stuff like that. Because what I think that could have done is by doing that, asking questions of whoever the witness was, or asking questions of the lawyers involved. That would have given Commodore Stone the opportunity to have additional oversight as the presiding officer over the panel and allow us to see a little bit more of that leadership style.
Yeah.
That would have been good. Otherwise, like I mean, they were there because it couldn't just be Commodore Stone. They had to have a panel. So, and if they're representatives and they're important people for this, I mean, you're talking about the captain of the flagship of the Federation. You kind of think that they would be important enough where these guys would want to say some stuff, right,
Yeah.
or ask some
Yeah,
questions.
absolutely.
And I get it, right? You only have so much time you can fit dialogue into the episode, and there was a lot that they had to fit into this to make it all work out. Um, but yeah, I thought overall Commodore Stone um, portrayed himself well. Again, the beginning with some missteps, but I thought he was an honorable guy, someone who led the court well. Uh, you could make an argument that if he had foreknowledge of the prior relationship between Shaw and Kirk, that maybe he would not have allowed her to be the prosecutor, but maybe that wasn't his call to make. And like you said, meh, we don't
Yeah.
care in the future about conflict of interest and everything. That's not nah. Don't worry about that. Just push that off to the side over here.
It's not a thing.
It's
Yeah.
it's not it's not a thing in the future because everybody's evolved and they're better and they're we don't have biases in the future. So there's no
Yeah.
such thing, right?
You're
Yeah.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
That's not how it works. So, yeah, overall good. I think what's interesting is the first two, uh, Starfleet officers we've looked at in these first two episodes of our new Spotlight series. I have found that definitely some differences with Commodore Decker. Commodore Decker was driven mad, I think,
Yeah.
right, by the loss of his entire crew, and he blamed himself, and the weight of that drove him to what he did, and him sacrificing himself and all those types of things. So different flavor there, but in general, I think the first two guys we've seen in this, they're not bad.
Yeah.
I think Decker was wrecked by the weight and loss of his crew and made him go mad. I don't think he was like that before. Um, and then of course all the taking command of the Enterprise and some of the stuff he probably wouldn't have done had he been in his right
Yeah.
frame of mind. But I would look at both these guys as a whole as being two honorable men, two guys that were worthy of their positions and rank. It's not always going to be the case moving forward.
I know.
We're going to
Yeah.
have some whoppers, as we said. We can't wait to share those with you. But the first two so far, I think we're off to a good start, and two really great. Not just the fact that we're looking at these two Commodore characters, right? But like just the roles that they play are wonderful, and the episodes themselves are just great. Not just talking about the individual character, but the actual episodes they appear in are just really fantastic and a lot of fun to
Yeah.
talk about.
They are really fantastic. Yeah. Yeah.
So
I
yeah,
really like this episode, my friend. This was great.
yeah, it's a classic episode. This is a big important milestone in Kirk's career too, right? I mean, his whole career could have been wrecked.
Yeah.
His whole career could have been wrecked I think if Commodore Stone were a different person, had a different uh uh if his character were different, and by character I mean the character of the character were different, it's possible they could have wrecked. Well, we know that wouldn't have happened, but if this were really playing out, it's very possible they could have completely ruined Kirk in order to sweep everything under the rug and avoid any type of negative publicity, quote
Yeah.
unquote.
Yeah.
Right. So Commodore Stone does play a significant role in this to ensure that Kirk isn't ruined.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Spock does too. Spock is really what saves Kirk's career, I think, in this case because of the what he does to go figure out what actually happened, um, the fact that they do discover that Finney is still alive and he's behind the whole thing. He's pissed off because he blames Kirk for his ruining his career, and then Kirk promoted over him, and it's all this type of stuff. So Finney is out for vengeance and
Yeah.
tries to tarnish Kirk because of the spite he has for Kirk. But yeah, I mean, the episode's fantastic. It was just a great episode, classic Star Trek TOS episode, and definitely was a lot of fun to talk about.
Yeah, it sure was. There's the science fiction element of this, which is great. Man versus machine versus AI. Like, what's the relationship there? This is totally great to explore.
Yeah,
But then kind of the human element there, like we didn't talk too much about this, but because it's common, but that Finney is driven like mad by his resentment, right? And so that's kind of that has that's tore him up. That's
yeah,
why he did what he did. And then and the self-doubt part and then the pride part.
yeah.
And I think all of this is great. All of that is great in this
And
episode.
actually, if you look at Finney and compare him to Decker, they both probably were honorable men and good men before, but they were driven to make poor choices based off of circumstances and emotions that wouldn't have nor ordinarily been there, right? Commodore Decker wouldn't have made those decisions had it not been for his crew being killed and everything happening the way it did. And I don't think Finney wouldn't have done the things he did unless with his motives and so forth if his career had gone differently, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so we see the effect of those types of things and the way they can change people in these first two episodes of the
Hmm.
Spotlight series. So and we're going to see more of that stuff, those types of things happen to other characters, in future episodes.
Yeah. It's gonna be fun.
It's going to be good. So, anyways, well, thank you everybody as always so much for watching and listening all over the globe and the interwebs. We very much appreciate it. Be sure to go on to Facebook, Instagram, Threads to follow us there on those social media platforms. You can also find us on YouTube if you're listening to the audio side for the video version of this episode and many others. And for every episode we've ever done, to include the ones that were there prior to our YouTube channel, you can find those everywhere you get your podcasts on your favorite podcast platform. And we look forward to continuing the Spotlight series coming soon with the next episode. We'll figure out what that's going to be, whether it's going to be a Star Trek movie focused around Admiral Kirk's decision making, or we're going to jump into TNG with some of those whoppers of people that we see. And TNG's got some good, I'm really looking forward to these TNG episodes, man. There are some really good admirals and captains that we're going to discuss. Some that I think don't exactly get a fair shake. Maybe like Captain Jellicoe might be a little bit misunderstood.
Yeah.
Admiral Nechayev, I think, sometimes a little misunderstood. And then there's just people that are outright POSs like Pressman. So we'll find out. We'll find out all that as we go through the Spotlight series. But yeah, thanks again, everybody. Look forward to doing this with you again soon, Chris.
It's gonna be great, Zach. Yeah, we're gonna have a blast.
It's going to be great. It's going to be great. Looking forward to it. All right. Take care, everybody. Thanks as always. And we'll catch you next time right here on the Random Redshirt Podcast.